The Raven-class scout ship drifted silently through the debris field, its adaptive camouflage rendering it nearly invisible against the backdrop of shattered asteroids. Commander Ellis stood on the bridge, arms folded across his chest as he studied the tactical display. The alien fleet had grown overnight, 17 capital ships now, not counting support vessels. "They're amassing for a full invasion," Lieutenant Reed said, her voice tight with concern. "The Gloraathi never commit this many resources unless they're certain of victory." Ellis nodded grimly. The Gloraathi Imperium had conquered 12 systems in the past decade alone. Each conquest followed the same pattern: overwhelming force, minimal negotiation, rapid subjugation. Earth had been monitoring their expansion with growing alarm. "Continue observation," Ellis ordered. "I want to know when they make their move." 3 days later, they did. The Gloraathi fleet descended toward Earth in perfect formation, their massive ships casting long shadows across the lunar surface as they passed. The United Earth Defense Fleet moved to intercept. A brave gesture, but ultimately futile. The Gloraathi outnumbered them 4-1. What followed was less a battle than a slaughter. Earth's ships fought valiantly, but the Gloraathi weapons sliced through their hulls like paper. Within hours, the defense fleet was reduced to scattered wreckage. Ellis watched it all, transmitting encrypted data back to Earth Command while his crew sat in stunned silence. They all knew what came next: orbital bombardment, ground invasion, then occupation. Except it didn't happen. Instead, a single Gloraathi transmission was broadcast worldwide. "Humans of Earth, your resistance has ended. Surrender your planet or face extinction. You have 6 hours to decide." In the war room beneath Geneva, Admiral Nakamura looked at the assembled leaders of Earth's nations. "We have one option remaining," she said quietly. "Project Outcast." General Thompson shook his head. "We can't. Those people were exiled for a reason." "Those people are our only hope," Nakamura countered. "Every one of them is a monster by civilian standards, yes, but there are monsters." President Rivera's face was ashen. "Make the call." 10 light-years away, on a barren planet officially designated Penal Colony Alpha, unofficially known as Hell, the message arrived at the administration complex. Director Morgan listened to it twice before summoning his chief of security. "Wake them all," he ordered. "Tell them Earth needs them." Hell housed 8,000 prisoners, murderers, terrorists, war criminals, and worse. But they weren't ordinary criminals. Each had been enhanced through military programs, genetic engineering, or illegal cybernetics. Too dangerous to execute, too valuable to waste, they had been exiled to this remote world with a simple arrangement: survive here, together, and Earth would leave them alone. For 20 years they had built their own brutal society on Hell. They had formed factions, waged wars, established uneasy truces. They had survived in an environment that should have killed them 100 times over. Now Earth was calling them home. 12 hours later, 3 transport ships, long mothballed at the colony, lifted off with volunteers, 400 of the most lethal individuals humanity had ever produced. Each had accepted the mission for their own reasons: patriotism for some, bloodlust for others, and for many, simply the chance to leave Hell. Commander Park, once Earth's most decorated special forces officer before his war crimes conviction, addressed them during the journey. "They expect us to die. That's why they're sending us. But we're going to show them what Hell has taught us." The Gloraathi, confident in their victory, had settled into standard occupation procedures. Their ground forces had established beachheads in major cities, meeting minimal resistance from local military forces who had been ordered to stand down pending surrender negotiations. They never expected the first counterattack. 3 unmarked ships appeared at the edge of the system, accelerating toward Earth at speeds that stressed their ancient hulls. The Gloraathi detected them but dismissed them as refugees or stragglers. By the time they realized their mistake, the ships had already begun their kamikaze runs. The first transport smashed into the Gloraathi flagship's command deck, killing the Supreme Commander and most of his staff. The second targeted their primary communications vessel, severing the neural link between ground forces and the fleet. The third crashed into their largest troop carrier, just as it was preparing to deploy. In the confusion that followed, hundreds of drop pods jettisoned from the debris, each containing a single passenger from Hell. They fell to Earth like meteors, targeting Glarathi ground positions with shocking precision. What followed was not warfare as the Glarathi understood it. The convicts fought with a savagery that defied comprehension, using enhancement technologies the aliens had never encountered. A woman whose nervous system had been rewired to ignore pain tore through a Glarathi checkpoint with nothing but stolen knives. A man whose bones had been replaced with advanced composites walked unharmed through a hail of energy fire to reach the alien commander. The Glarathi warriors, bred for conquest, trained for glory, had never faced enemies who laughed as they died, who kept fighting after sustaining mortal wounds, who seemed to welcome death as long as they could take more aliens with them. Within 48 hours, the invaders were in full retreat. Glarathi commanders, watching their elite forces being systematically dismantled by what appeared to be deranged humans, ordered an immediate withdrawal. Admiral Nakamura watched the alien fleet flee, her expression unreadable. "Contact Director Morgan," she ordered. "Tell him to prepare for their return." "The convicts?" her aide asked. "They'll want to stay after this. They'll demand pardons, recognition." Nakamura shook her head. "Those weren't the terms. They return to Hell, or we treat them as hostiles too." In orbit above Earth, Commander Park stood on the bridge of a stolen Glarathi vessel, surrounded by his fellow outcasts. They had fulfilled their part of the bargain. Now they had to decide whether to honor it, or to turn their newfound power against the world that had cast them away. Earth had learned a valuable lesson. Sometimes the most dangerous weapon is the one you throw away. The Glarathi had learned an even more important one. Never threaten a world so dangerous that its outcasts could defeat an empire.